Imagine becoming king at the age of 20, leading an army across 3 continents and building one of the largest empires the ancient world had ever seen, all before your 33rd birthday. It almost sounds impossible, yet one man achieved exactly that. His name was Alexander the Great. To some, he was a fearless warrior. To others, he was a brilliant military genius whose tactics are still studied in military academies today. His victories changed the course of history forever, spreading Greek culture across vast lands and creating an empire unlike anything the world had ever seen. But how did a young prince from a small kingdom become one of history's greatest conquerors? What inspired his ambition, and what secrets lay behind his extraordinary success? Today we're uncovering the incredible story of Alexander the Great. Alexander was born in 356 BC in the city of Pella, the capital of the Kingdom of Macedon. At that time, Macedon was growing into one of the strongest military powers in Greece under the leadership of King Philip II. Philip was not only a fearless warrior, but also a brilliant strategist who transformed his army into one of the most disciplined fighting forces of the ancient world. Alexander's mother, Queen Olympias, believed that her son was chosen for greatness. She filled his childhood with stories of legendary heroes like Achilles and Hercules, inspiring him to dream far beyond the borders of his homeland. Even as a child, Alexander displayed remarkable intelligence, confidence, and determination. One famous story tells how he tamed a wild horse named Bucephalus after realizing it was frightened by its own shadow. While experienced horsemen failed, the young prince calmly turned the horse toward the sunlight and mounted it with ease. Witnessing this, King Philip proudly declared that Macedon was too small for his son's ambitions. As Alexander grew older, his father wanted him to receive the finest education possible. He chose Aristotle, one of the greatest philosophers in history, to become his teacher. Under Aristotle's guidance, Alexander studied philosophy, science, medicine, geography, literature, politics, and ethics. More importantly, he developed an insatiable curiosity about the world beyond Greece. He became fascinated by the stories of Homer, especially the legendary warrior Achilles, whom he admired as the perfect example of courage and honor. Alexander even carried a copy of the Iliad during many of his military campaigns. These lessons shaped his mind just as military training shaped his body. He wasn't simply preparing to become a king, he was preparing to change history.
In 336 BC, Alexander's life changed forever. During a grand celebration, King Philip II was assassinated by one of his own bodyguards. The sudden death of the powerful king threw the kingdom into uncertainty. At just 20 years old, Alexander inherited the throne of Macedon. Many of his enemies believed the young king lacked the experience to rule such a powerful nation. Several Greek city-states quickly rebelled, hoping to break free from Macedonian control. But Alexander acted with remarkable speed and confidence. He marched his army across Greece, crushing every rebellion that stood in his way. The city of Thebes, one of the strongest opponents of Macedonian rule, was completely destroyed after refusing to surrender. The harsh victory sent a clear message across Greece. Alexander was not simply the son of Philip II. He was a determined ruler, ready to defend his kingdom at any cost. With Greece united once again, he turned his attention toward an even greater ambition, conquering the mighty Persian Empire. For nearly 2 centuries, the Persian Empire had dominated the ancient world. It stretched across millions of square miles, connecting powerful cities, wealthy kingdoms, countless cultures under one ruler. Many believed Persia was simply too powerful to defeat, but Alexander believed otherwise. In the spring of 334 BC, he crossed the Hellespont with an army of nearly 40,000 soldiers, leaving Europe behind and entering Asia before advancing. He is said to have thrown a spear into Persian soil, declaring Asia as land to be won. It was a bold gesture that reflected his fearless ambition. Every soldier understood they were beginning a campaign unlike any in history. Ahead of them stood the largest empire on earth. Behind them lay everything they had ever known. There would be no turning back. Alexander's first major challenge came at the Granicus River, where Persian forces waited to block his advance. Many of his commanders advised him to delay the attack until morning, believing a river assault would be too dangerous. Alexander refused to wait. Leading from the front, he charged directly into the river alongside his cavalry. The battle quickly descended into chaos as arrows flew and swords clashed. During the fighting, Alexander came dangerously close to death when a Persian nobleman struck at him with an axe. At the last possible moment, one of his loyal companions intervened, saving the young king's life. Against overwhelming odds, the Macedonians achieved a decisive victory. The Battle of Granicus proved that Alexander was more than an ambitious ruler. He was a fearless commander willing to risk his own life beside his soldiers. News of the victory spread rapidly across the ancient world, and confidence in the Persian Empire began to crumble. After his victory at the Granicus River, Alexander continued deeper into Persian territory. King Darius III could no longer ignore the growing threat. Determined to crush the young conqueror, he assembled a massive army, believed to number well over 100,000 soldiers. In 333 BC, the two forces met near the town of Issus, although Alexander was heavily outnumbered. He carefully chose the battlefield, forcing the larger Persian army to fight in a narrow area where their numbers offered little advantage. As the battle raged, Alexander led a direct cavalry charge toward Darius himself. The sudden attack shattered the Persian lines. Seeing Alexander rapidly approaching, Darius abandoned the battlefield and fled, leaving behind his army, his royal treasure, and even members of his own family. It was a humiliating defeat for the Persian king and a stunning victory that established Alexander as one of the greatest military commanders of the ancient world. Following his victory at Issus, Alexander marched south along the Mediterranean coast, capturing key cities one after another. Eventually, he entered Egypt, where something remarkable happened. Instead of resisting him, the Egyptian people welcomed Alexander as a liberator. After years of Persian rule, many saw him as a leader who could restore stability and prosperity. During his time in Egypt, Alexander founded a new city that would bear his name, Alexandria. Built on the Mediterranean coast, it quickly grew into one of the greatest centers of trade, science, and learning in the ancient world. Alexander also traveled deep into the Egyptian desert to visit the famous Oracle of Amen at Siwa Oasis. Ancient sources claim the priests greeted him as the son of the god Amen, further strengthening his belief that he was destined to achieve extraordinary things. In 331 BC, Alexander and Darius faced each other for one final, decisive battle on the plains of Gaugamela. This would determine the future of the Persian Empire. Darius assembled an enormous force that included cavalry, war chariots, and even war elephants. Despite the overwhelming odds, Alexander remained calm. Using brilliant tactics and perfect timing, created a gap in the Persian formation before leading a devastating cavalry charge straight toward Darius once again. Unable to withstand the pressure, the Persian king fled for a second time, leaving his empire defenseless. The victory at Gaugamela opened the gates to the great cities of Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis. Soon after, Alexander entered Persepolis, the magnificent ceremonial capital of Persia. Within months, the mighty Persian Empire, the largest empire of its age, had fallen into his hands. With the Persian Empire now under his control, most rulers would have declared victory. But Alexander was different. His ambition knew no limits. Determined to reach the edge of the known world, he led his army farther east into the Indian subcontinent. The journey was long and brutal. His soldiers crossed scorching deserts, towering mountains, and dangerous rivers. Facing harsh weather, unfamiliar lands, and fierce resistance, in 326 BC, Alexander faced one of his greatest opponents, King Paras at the Battle of the Hydaspes River. Despite heavy rain and difficult terrain, Alexander used brilliant strategy to outmaneuver the enemy. After an intense battle, he emerged victorious. But instead of humiliating the defeated king, Alexander showed respect for Porus's courage and allowed him to continue ruling his kingdom as an ally. It was a decision that revealed not only his military brilliance, but also his understanding of leadership and diplomacy. Although Alexander dreamed of conquering even more lands, his exhausted army refused to march any farther. Reluctantly, he turned back toward Babylon, the heart of his growing empire. But fate had other plans. In 323 BC, after attending a royal banquet, Alexander suddenly became seriously ill. For several days, his condition worsened. Despite the efforts of his physicians, the young conqueror died at just 32 years of age. The exact cause of his death remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Some historians believe he died from disease, while others have suggested poisoning, malaria, typhoid fever, or other illnesses. To this day, no theory has been proven with certainty. His sudden death shocked the ancient world. The man who had never lost a battle was defeated by something no army could fight. After Alexander's death, his vast empire was divided among his most trusted generals. Although the empire itself did not survive as a single kingdom, Alexander's influence continued to spread across the ancient world. Greek language, art, architecture, science, and philosophy blended with the cultures of Egypt, Persia, and Asia, creating what historians now call the Hellenistic Age. Cities he founded, especially Alexandria in Egypt, became centers of knowledge, trade, and innovation for centuries. More than 2,000 years later, military leaders still study his battlefield tactics, historians continue to debate his achievements, and people around the world remain fascinated by his extraordinary life. Alexander ruled for only 13 years, yet he changed the course of history forever. His story reminds us that true greatness is measured not only by the lands we conquer, but by the lasting impact we leave behind. If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to History of the World, and turn on notifications for more epic documentaries. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next chapter of history.